joining Treeline Review and Garage Grown Gear for this panel on innovations and the future of ultralight gear. My name is Liz Snorkel Thomas. I'm the co-founder of Treeline Review. We are a gear review website that makes obsessively researched and tested gear reviews. And we build welcoming gear reviews that focus on buying right the first time and being better stewards of the planet. One thing that makes us a little bit different is we're real people, not ChatGPT or bots. We're founded by thru hikers, myself and Naomi, who are triple crowners. In many cases, the gear that we test has thousands of miles on it before we write it up. If you have any questions during the event, there will be time at the end of tonight's webinar to ask questions. Please include them in the chat, and I will talk with Lloyd and our panelists and make sure that your question gets answered. And after this talk, we'll also have a recording available for you. Without further ado, I want to introduce Lloyd from Garage Grown Gear. Thank you so much for joining us, Lloyd.
Thanks, Liz. Yeah, my name is Lloyd Vogel. My pronouns are he, him, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Garage Grown Gear. For those of you who don't know about Garage Grown, we're an online marketplace that specializes in ultralight backpacking gear, specifically gear made by small and cottage outdoor brands. And we've been friends with the fine folks at Treeline Review for a number of years, and excited to partner tonight for this panel. And this evening's topic is innovation and the future of ultralight backpacking. So if that's what you were here to learn about, you're in the right place. And yeah, at Garage Grown, we really pride ourselves on being at the forefront of innovation within the ultralight industry. And assembled here are four folks who are at the center of this innovation. We'll talk a little bit about gear, we'll talk about trends, and we'll dive into the direction of ultralight backpacking. So in our 1 hour together, we'll have our guests introduce themselves. I'll ask them a number of hopefully thought-provoking questions, and you can leave me feedback on that later. And then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. And yeah, as Liz said, pop those questions into the chat if you've got them. We'll try to get to them at the end. But yeah, jumping into introductions, I'd love if we could start off with Sarah, if you would mind introducing yourself with your name, the company you are with, and what got you interested in backpacking and the outdoors. And then we can you can popcorn to another panelist when you're done.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. It's a real honor to be here. Some of you have been in the industry much longer than me, so appreciate the welcome here. I'm the founder of Symbiosis Gear. We just launched our first product here on March 1st, which has been a 2-year project. So super excited about that. We make backpacking gear for people with boobs. So we're specifically a women's backpacking gear company. I grew up in several beautiful places, and my parents were fairly outdoorsy. So did some backpacking like once as a kid, and it was incredibly uncomfortable because I had like my grandpa's old like canvas backpack, which I still have. It's beautiful, but not comfortable. And then, yeah, I was out visiting my brother in Vermont, and I started doing some more hiking and saw these like blazes on the trees, and I was like, what is that? And then I saw, oh, long trail. What's the long trail? And then I discovered the Vermont long trail. I didn't know about the term through hiking, but I was like, that sounds cool to hike the length of Vermont. I think I'll do it. And along the way, I've learned a lot. I was not ultralight at the beginning or end of that hike. I wasn't ultralight at the beginning of the PCT either. So it's definitely been a learning curve.
Really excited to have you here, and just also congratulations on launching things.
All right, so my name is Whitney LaRuffa. I'm better known as All Good. I'm the vice president of sales and marketing for Six Moon Designs. We're an ultralight gear backpacking gear company. We're known probably very well for our tents. The Lunar Solo, I think, is an ultralight tent most people have probably heard of. We also make a line of backpacks, umbrellas. I've been with the company for 5.5 years, and I got my start in the outdoors. I grew up in New Hampshire, so the outdoors are just something we played in all the time growing up. And then I was heavily involved with scouting as a child. I am an Eagle Scout, And I started backpacking road when I was about 10 years old in the White Mountains, and was fortunate enough to get to go to Philmont when I was 17 years old. And then very fortunate that I was able to work and save enough money that when I was 18, I graduated high school a semester early and hiked the Appalachian Trail northbound in 1996 before I went to college. And I did not come to ultralight the easy way. I started at Springer Mountain with a Dana Design Terraplane, which was 6,700 cubic inches. And I had 2 exterior pockets and a beaver tail shove it. And I started with 85 pounds out of Amicalola. And by the time I got to Neal's Gap, I realized that was really not going to work for the rest of the hike. And I think I got things down to about a 35-pound base weight, which in the mid 90s was actually a respectable base weight. When you consider my backpack was 8 pounds empty. That doesn't really seem that far out of line. But yeah, I think there's a lot of innovations in ultralight. I will just say I don't recommend starting the Appalachian Trail with not 1 but 2 pair of jeans, one of which is fleece lined in case it gets cold. That was probably a bit of a rookie mistake considering how much backpacking I had done in life. But yeah.
The older photos of when you started the AT are really priceless.
Yeah, I mean, there were time capsules. I mean, of Grateful Dead tie-dye, red shorts, knee-high OR gaiters, big leather boots. I mean, it was the 90s. That's what we all looked like. So
yeah.
Thanks, maybe all good. Yeah. I'm going to kick it over to Liv.
Hey, hey everyone, I'm Liv Melo. I was born in the Dominican Republic, where I would say I had a connection with nature. And then I immigrated to NYC, where I lost it seemingly. Meantime, I became an industrial designer. And then back in 2018, I learned about backpacking and dove right in. And merged my love for design and backpacking into a company that I founded with my wife. It's called allmansright. I like to think that we produce and design forward-thinking gear that is conscious of people and planet.
It's great. Thanks, Liv. Shout out to Jen.
Shout out to Jen. Yes, she's definitely home, taking care of our kids. So.
I think that's what happens when you have a small human, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send it over to Chris.
All right. Hey, everybody. My name is Chris Shabo. I'm the CEO for Enlightened Equipment. We make ultralight sleep systems, quilts primarily. The Revelation and the Enigma are a couple of our most popular quilts. We also make some insulated apparel. All of our apparel is synthetic insulation. A couple popular items there. The Torrid jacket would probably be the most popular thing that's in that lineup. Rain gear is an area that we've messed around with a little bit, and we've had some pretty good success with the Visp. We've dabbled in some other things where we've really we've tried to be innovative and kind of push R&D in some directions, but ultimately we kind of settled into our sweet spot, I think. I grew up in an outdoors family. Every family vacation was camping or something along those lines. I got involved in scouting. So that's cool. Whitney, I didn't know that about you. I'm an Eagle Scout, 1999 from Troop 63. Woo woo.
92, Troop 22.
There you go. I definitely did a lot of backpacking in scouting. That wasn't really my family's thing, but definitely scouting is where I got involved with the backpacking side. And like Whitney and others have mentioned, way overpacked, way over encumbered. I hated backpacking. I liked the camping and I liked the camaraderie, but I hated the backpacking. So yeah, I did the college thing. Ended up not using my degree at all. I went and worked for a Boy Scout council for 8 years. In part of that, I was a camp director and I was the high adventure coordinator. So I helped troops plan for trips like Philmont and things of that nature. Yeah, I did about, 13 years in kind of the nonprofit world. But that whole time I was doing a lot of backpacking trips with friends and kind of slowly tuning into the frequency of like Ray Jardine and looking at the kits and kind of understanding. I eventually, I finally went out and I got a sewing machine at Goodwill for $17 and started sewing stuff sacks. And, you know, eventually that kind of exploded into this whole thing where like I was obsessed with having everything in my kit be sewn by me. So I had backpacks and hammocks and bug covers and every stuff sack. And I was making shirts out of M90 or M50 from Through Hiker. And I was just crazy about it. This whole time I'm doing fundraising and nonprofit management stuff. And then ultimately I ended up realizing that this company that was kind of on the grow, Enlightened Equipment, was just 30 miles from my house. And so I ended up writing Tim Marshall an actual letter, kind of letting him know that I admired the company and I wanted to meet him and have some coffee. And he ghosted me for our first coffee session, but we eventually connected. And I just had this feeling that I needed to make this big change. And I ended up starting with him in 2016 in R&D as a sewer. And then as opportunities kind of presented, I kind of went up through the production, manufacturing kind of operations ultimately. And then was the first CEO that wasn't the founder in 2023. So it's been a really cool ride. I can't imagine doing anything else. I love the community and I love all the gear, and I still sew things in my house when I'm feeling inspired and creative, and I feel like there's something to improve upon. So I love it, and I'm really thankful to be part of this group.
Thanks, everyone. Chris is also the owner of Prairie Dog Trowels. Just a shout out to Prairie Dog Trowels. And I am also a proud owner of a fanny pack that Chris made, which if I were to leave my mic, I would go and grab it. But yeah, thanks everyone for introducing yourselves. And it's always really interesting to hear kind of just the different ways that folks get into the outdoors and how that kind of can catalyze turning a passion into a profession. And I kind of just love to jump right into a couple questions with you all. Starting off with, I'm just kind of constantly impressed by the level of innovation that is happening within the ultralight industry. I think kind of whenever I think that I've seen everything, there's like a 1 ounce pump that comes out for your sleeping pad, or a toothbrush that attaches to a spoon, or some new and different fabric that everyone seems to be talking about on Reddit. Right now, like what does innovation look like for you within your individual company? Like what kind of are you doing, or what are you kind of up to that is innovating in the ultralight space? And I'd love to start that off with Liv.
For real, for making me first for this. So I think for us, innovation, we're looking towards making products that like are repairable, that are multi-use, and in turn less wasteful in sort of their life and then their production. Basically an outdoor gear company that leaves no trace, right? And if I could give some examples, would be that like our 30-liter backpack, 35-liter backpack, all of the elastics are replaceable. So as you know, elastics are something that wears out naturally over time. So how do you create a bag that lives a long life? You attack the weak points. So on our bags, you could replace stuff that wears out basically easily as well. We address wastefulness by using as much of the materials possible. Kind of dictates our dimensions sometimes, wherever it's not too crucial. For example, where a lot of the stuff that is left over is like scrim, basically the edge of the fabric. And even then, when we're figuring out things to do with like the scraps, from teaching the community how to sew and repair gear with it, to most recently we're gonna start weaving like even 1-inch scraps of Dyneema, like the long strip that happened like from the edge. We're going to be weaving them into like traditional techniques kind of thing. With the point is to reduce all the waste that we've kept from day one, most of it anyway, to nothing. We even keep the threads that we snip from the product in a jar to hopefully someday make it best, like a one-off as insulation kind of thing. Really, it always lives in our conscience that we work with uh, plastics and rubbers, and we just want to we don't want to fall into the outdoor company paradox where, like, we destroy the environment to allow you to go out and enjoy it, while allowing you to go out and enjoy it. And then we're looking at modularity and multifunction. Like last September, we teamed up with a store in Brooklyn to create a dry bag that is a bare food hanging bag that is also side, like a crossbody bag, that is also modular, in that, like, it has water bottle pockets that are compatible that you can attach to the side, that's compatible with our backpacks, and took it further and did like helmet net, or net that holds your helmet in place. So, you could use it for storing your food, for just around the city as a waterproof bag, to ride your bike. It even had like a stabilizer strap across. And all those uses seem like, like they're a lot in a broad spectrum. But, 2 weeks ago, I met a fly fisherman from like Harlem that has attacked every single one of those case uses, and, absolutely made my day when he came through to the studio, and like, and saw somebody that got the product. So
Cool.
yeah, that's what we're looking into, man. I think we have the unique opportunity to be small and agile and have great control over our production and waste. And I think innovation for us is like, um, trying to do business as usual, slightly different way, for the sake of ecology and people.
Thanks, Liv. Yeah, that's great. Kind of that environmental sustainability lens, as well as that modularity. Yeah, that's really great to hear. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think innovation is an interesting topic. I mean, there's just so many ways to innovate. I think just kind of hearing Liv's, take on innovation, I think is awesome, because I think it shows that there's so much more to innovation than just product design, right? Product design is such a huge part of it. But I mean, for Enlightened Equipment, which definitely, comes from that cottage manufacturing. I mean, this is definitely, from the basement. People were sewing our products in their homes at one point in time, to trying to scale our company along the way has, I think, required, more innovation than a lot of the original product designs did. Surely, that's where the vast majority of the talented people on my team spend their time and energy, is trying to figure out how to do this as well, like we're small, still, but doing it on a much bigger level. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge every day. I think it's the biggest problem that we're solving is kind of how to play big, but also kind of still have some of that small company kind of philosophies and mindsets. And I think that's a really fun and rewarding part of what we do is, of course, the product design. That's all very cool and fun, but definitely like building the business in a way that can be as sustainable as possible, not waste. Trying to find other uses for trim, climate shield, and yeah, all of that stuff. Adding in new machines and things like that. It just it's fun to see innovation in real time with a team that's trying to make outdoor gear.
Yeah, Chris, especially in Enlightened Equipment is such an interesting case in the sense of having both a fully built out custom program and a stock program, which I think is kind of unique in that space of really being kind of having to run two different businesses in one business.
Right.
Which
Yeah,
is pretty innovative in and of itself.
Yeah, I suppose, it's kind of just happened naturally along the way, but yeah, that is a fun element of it too, that we get to have our, very custom, team of 20 sewers or somewhere in that neighborhood, and we can kind of make exactly what people want, while still trying to have this whole ready to ship side of it that's way more heavy on the logistics side and forecasting side and cash flow side and all of those kinds of things. So yeah,
all those very sexy parts of business.
you got it.
Yeah,
The good part.
thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
I mean, I could jump in real quick. I mean, I guess for us, innovation really lies in the fact that at this point, we're really trying to explore what's a broader market that this ultralight backpacking world can cross over into, because I mean, frankly, the outdoor space is getting very crowded. It's and a lot of the philosophies that make going in the backcountry more fun can transfer over easily to other activities such as travel or just everyday life, of reducing the amount of stuff we bring with us, the amount of stuff we have to buy, and be able to do things in an efficient way but still be comfortable. And I think for our company, the last 2 years, that's really what we've been exploring as far as innovation goes. And then the second part of that is, I think a lot of the industry is changing quickly due to PFAS regulations. And for a lot of us small brands, that's a pretty scary thing to have to try to navigate. So there's been a lot of forced innovation as to, well, if we can't get this material anymore with this coating, what's that next coating? How do we access the same stuff that Big Agnes gets to access, or Granite Gear, or any of these bigger companies get to access? How do we learn, from them to be able to innovate what we're already doing, but there's modifications that have to get made. So, I think for Six Moon Designs, that's a big part of it. It's just like looking at our overall sustainability, like Liv said. I mean, I'm a huge person into conservation. We spend a lot of money as a company protecting the Oahe and pushing for regulation to make it a wilderness area. And every $10 from one of our tents goes to that. And it's like, well, what else can we be doing? Making a commitment to reduce plastic packaging everywhere we can, and using renewable energy to to turn the lights at Six Moon Designs every day, those kind of things. So I think that's where the innovation internally is focused on right now at our company.
Yeah, for us, innovation is about starting with women's bodies first, because most gear is designed for men, and then it's like, maybe it will work for women. I mean, most products in the world are designed for men, actually. So that's our approach, is to really think about all the variables that are involved in designing for women's bodies and making really inclusive design, which at first I was like, why isn't anybody doing this? And then I started doing it. I was like, oh, it's complicated. It's really complicated because women have, there's like wide hips, narrow hips, big belly, small belly, big boobs, small boobs, narrow shoulders, wide shoulders, long torso, short torso, and any possible combination of those. So that's really where the innovation is coming in for us, is how do we design backpacks that are inclusive to many different body shapes and sizes. And then, just always starting with a women's body first.
It's pretty amazing to have 4 very different answers to what innovation looks like. That's fairly innovative in and of itself, that's kind of how that question lands. And then this kind of is just an extension upon that last question of, what are you seeing in terms of trends in the broader ultralight space? So kind of outside of your own individual spaces, what kind of trends, gear-wise or otherwise, are you kind of seeing taking off?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the broader outdoor industry space, what we've really finally seen, I would say in the last 5 years, is where ultralight theory and philosophy and approach to backpacking in particular was always kind of the fringe. It is now the norm. I mean, and it doesn't take much to just look at any of the big box brands that have their own labels. I won't say the name, but there's 3 distinct initials that I think everybody knows really well.
Are you talking about GGG?
Yeah, GGG. Where I mean, when I look at a big box brand taking a designer and saying, hey, this ultralight brand here sells a really good product that sells really well, we want you to go knock it off, which is basically what they do. And it's like, there's a lot of missteps that I see happening in that industry because of it too, where the Flash Air 1 was pretty much like a copy of our Skyscape Trekker. And the most recent version I just looked at yesterday looked a lot more like my Lunar Solo with struts in the back. So I don't think there's a lot of innovation going on at that big box brands, but I think they have finally realized that people don't want to buy a 75-liter 8-pound backpack and an 8-pound tent. You know, some people do, but I think they're figuring out that most people coming in there want to get lighter gear, and as a result we're seeing the overall just general outdoor industry start taking a bigger stance towards ultralight products.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, and also some of the bigger brands are coming out with ultralight products too. Some, you know, they've had the more traditional backpack with all the, you know, all of the padding and the frame, and now they have an ultralight backpack. So it's
Yeah, you take that new black diamond pack and you take the black diamond off of it, and that looks very much like a cottage pack.
Oh, yeah. But I do think there's one issue with that whole trend is that, you know, Sarah's hiked how many trails and, you know, realized there was a need for a woman's body. And she designed a pack that took her 2 years based on, you know, her own personal relationship with ultralight gear. And the same as 6 Moon Designs, everything we've designed is because of all of our time on trail and miles, either Ron's or Brandon's or myself and stuff I've designed, and probably the same in Enlighten and Liv. And it's like, I think when you're taking a young designer and saying, hey, go make something that looks like this, but they don't understand the failure that gear's had on trail. There's a big misstep with these big box brands going in there. That's why we've seen a lot of failures in certain stuff they've come out with, because it's like, I'll just use that original Flash Air one by REI. When that came out, the first thing I saw, I said, it doesn't have 2 doors and it doesn't have a way to open that back vestibule. And I can tell you right off the bat, they're going to have condensation issues. And what was the number one complaint with that tent? It had really bad condensation issues. But it's like, you only realize that when you've spent a lot of time in an ultralight single wall tent, realizing condensation is a major issue. How do we design around this? It's like our failures on trail is what helped us all design a product that we now sell.
Yeah, no, for sure. They're definitely, you know, it's become easier too, right? Because for a while they, you know, these big box brands, they need something bomb proof, right? Like that's part of the reason why they were everything was overbuilt back then. And then basically they're and I'll be honest, I don't know exactly how I feel entirely about the whole thing, about the popularity of UL happening. But basically, you know, they're using our years of like proof of concept and are applying it to you know, to their, with their budgets and aesthetics and that and the next. And you know, from Rob to Black Diamond, you can definitely see the similarities and sort of the adaptive techniques that, you know, so some of our small folks been working on. You know, it's gonna come, you know, let's not, you know, they like I said, they have the budget. Soon they'll have the absolute know-how. But I do think that we have something special, and that's our agility, the feedback, our feedback to our customers, you know, just the communities that we're able to build and the stories we're able to tell, you know, and that's something that, you know, all their, you know, great photography can only go so far as to telling, you know what I mean? So it might seem like, you know, the big boys are in town and they're like taking over, but I think, you know, this stuff is pretty core. It's pretty niche. I think we just have to keep telling good stories and stay ahead, a step ahead, being as agile as we are, and you know, that's how we're gonna survive this.
Yeah,
I think, you know, I think when you look at some of the bigger brands that are kind of entering that space, it's definitely they're mimicking, they're copying the things that the cottage brands have been doing for years. But what you don't see actually is innovation beyond where we are already at and have arrived for many years. You know, I can think of the you know, the 3-letter, you know, they have some of their own quilts and things of that nature, but they're uninspired. You know, they have issues that when I look at them, I can see, and you start to read reviews and other people can find them too. And I do think that it's a lack. Yeah, it's a lack of spending the time. It's they haven't done the 10,000 hours, right, of work to really know what that product is and how it's going to perform. they are effectively just kind of, they're mimicking the things that we're doing, but it doesn't really feel authentic. And I think that really one of the only strengths they really have is just access and availability, right? A lot of times a backpacker that's thinking about getting into that ultralight space, their first stop is a store like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
What is in front of them is the thing that they're going to buy 9 times out of 10. They don't know about our brands yet. My hope is that, events like this can kind of expand the greater knowledge of how many different offerings there are, even just in this group of 4, for just amazing products that, you don't have to go to the big box. I think that we do it better, and oftentimes for like the same price. There's oftentimes not some big financial premium that they're having to pay to buy a Lunar Solo or get a Revelation over a big box store's equivalent. So yeah,
No,
I
well,
same thing.
sorry, I was going to say they often even charge more, right? Because they have sort of like that the public trust behind the name.
Mhm.
Well, they have a lot more overhead than all of us too. I mean, that's just the
That's
reality. It's
yeah,
like
for
that.
sure.
I mean, like you talked about our agility. I mean, I think the strength of all of us on this call is, I mean, just look at the pandemic. The pandemic hit, and everybody on this call was able to pivot and survive and probably thrive during that time. Where the really big brands, really, in the big box stores, where they really struggled for the first 12
Yeah.
months of the pandemic to get their feet underneath them in that new market space.
Mhm.
So being small and agile was actually a huge benefit, especially in today's outdoor retail world is a pretty tough situation right now. So being agile is
Yeah.
really helpful, I think.
Mhm.
For sure.
Yeah, I've heard it described frequently as the small businesses are the sharks of the industry and big businesses are the whales.
Yep.
And there is something inspiring about that. And I think as we've seen the term ultralight become more and more of a buzzword and more something that is more familiar for more people, there is a great piece of accessibility about that, and that brings its own kind of sets of nuances and challenges. So thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Really a lot of thoughtful responses there. Um, I guess any products, and I'll combine 2 questions here. Any products that are coming out or have come out recently that you felt have been very innovative, or any brands that you all look up to and say they've really got something going on in terms of creating innovative ultralight stuff?
Lloyd, who's in the audience that we should suck up to? Is Gossamer?
Yeah, I'm not moderating it that closely.
I mean, I'll just say this. Like I have there are elements of almost every brand that I can find something admirable in. I have a vast array, this entire closet next to me that has kind of been dubbed the gear closet. I'm not allowed to expand beyond that, but there's I got Six Moons designs. I got a umbrella in there, and Gossamer gear packs. My kid runs a Kumo, and yeah, I mean, I just think that there's so many great things out there. Like I don't know that I necessarily look at any individual company and think, wow, they're just so innovative. I think mostly because at its core, like ultralight is, the simpler the better in many ways, right? It's kind of hard to improve and innovate on on a backpack in some ways. I mean, you have like
Yeah.
the Ray Gardine backpacks kits of 2003, and you look at a lot of backpacks that are out there, and you can see the lineage. It's a very clear line, back to some of these original kits, some of the early innovators of the sport. And so I think that a lot of the innovation, seems to kind of come out of the technical side for fabrics. That's where you've seen a lot of big advancements the last few years. Is just the changes from more traditional pack materials or tent materials into some of these other material categories. But I think there's a lot of great brands out there, and I own parts and pieces from them all, and they're all part of my repertoire. So
I was in Japan this last fall for a couple of weeks visiting my distributor, and we did a really big tour of Japan. We visited 4 to 5 ultralight shops a day over a 2-week period. It was pretty awesome. And I'm going to be honest. I think the most innovative stuff I've seen in the ultralight market in the last 5 years is currently happening in Japan. They're having like a real ultralight renaissance, kind of a golden age.
Totally.
I think probably the coolest thing I found there was a mount that screws on your fuel canister, and it turns your fuel canister in the base of basically a camera tripod. I'm sorry, my cat is going nuts up.
Whitney's cat loves
But
ultralight backpacking.
yeah, my cat, she does. She loves when I'm sewing sew nylon to come jump on it and slide across it on the sewing table at the house. So but I really do think like that's where I've seen the most innovative stuff. And I agree too with Chris said. It's like I own two of the steak quivers from Liv because when I saw those, I was like, wow, that's the coolest steak bag I've ever seen. I have to have one of those quivers. Like that thing's sweet, And it's like, I lust after a pair of trail design gloves. It's like I think there is a lot of innovation or like new materials, but I do also feel like our industry as a whole and like ultralight, like I kind of feel like domestically right now, like we've kind of peaked out. Like what I'm seeing is like blowing my mind, at least for like stuff that hard goods that are made with fabrics. And I think what it is, it's like you said, 80s, 90s, everything was heavy. Ray Jardine comes along, it's really easy to go. Cut off your backpack excess straps, cut your toothbrush in half, make a quilt, lighten up your pack, lighten up the big three, do all these little changes. And it was like at the time, I mean, that was like earth-shattering information. And now that's just like common UL practice. And then Dyneema came along, and that really changed the game a lot, that fabric. And that's been the pinnacle of how a lot of things are able to cheat the system. But I really think right now it's like a commodification of the ultralight world. Like you said, backpacks. I mean, there's a lot of backpack brands right now, and it's like it's pretty hard to distinguish each one, what's different about them, which I don't think is a bad thing necessarily that we have like a very crowded space right now. It's like the market's going to dictate what makes it, what doesn't make it. That's just the reality of how this economy works. But I think until we have like the next genesis, I think an ultralight's going to happen with some kind of fabric development, material development, both in a fabric and a material that we haven't utilized yet. And that's going to drive this whole next level from like where we are now, where we've kind of like come from like the mid 2000s up to today. And I think we're going to hit this new fabric thing, and then it's going to go like this. And that's what's really we're waiting on right now, is that next great thing to come along to be able to push the envelope again.
Yeah, I'm curious to see also what happens in terms of designs, because I think as people have said, we've got the functionality down for the most part. So now we can play more with colors and what does it look like, and all of these more aesthetic things.
Totally.
So I've been looking at Salewa, if I'm saying that right, but they're a running company out of Italy, and they've got some really cool design. Like every time I go, I'm like, oh, look at that. Like, oh, it's from them again. I'm just like, they've got an amazing design team over there. So yeah, I like to also look kind of beyond our little niche of ultralight and what's happening in the broader industry as well.
Yeah. Sir, that's a big reason why I go to Outdoor Retailer each year, is to kind of just broaden my horizons. So I'm not just, and like I think what we were saying, what a couple folks were saying earlier, is that sometimes the the bigger players in the industry are just mimicking stuff in the cottage industry, and at times in certain areas they really are especially in some more technical spaces, really setting the bar and continuing to advance that. And so, yeah, being able to leave the little cottage niche at times and kind of just see what other kind of trends are happening in the broader space always feels very valuable to me. Even if it is a little like, whoa, that company is, doing a million different things.
Sorry, it seems like this is, I don't know if it's a two-parter or not, but I've been looking at this brand called Rayon Bird out of Milan, Italy, for a while. I think, they just seem to value a lot of the stuff that like we're valuing these days, like transparency, creativity, community, and a real ecological need to like do business a little bit differently. And then they tell all of this in like just like in a very cool, very dope aesthetic, and like almost like punk like, right? Like it's almost like anti-company kind of thing. And it's like it's not like one founder. I think it's like a collective of through hikers, all of them pitching in, or collection of outdoors, all of them pitching in their expertise and stuff. But yeah, something real special coming out from them, and and they continue to sort of like to show that like there are spaces to like innovate in when it comes to ultralight. Like we just have to like it's just I guess it's as far as like sewn soft goods go and stuff like that. There's much there, but I think multifunctionality. I think it's gonna be the way forward. I mean, like that tooth that like brush head that connects to your toes.
Yeah.
That's something real special. It shows how like now you're designing and like creating for other gear that exists. You know what I mean? And that's really how. And now you're really lightening the load. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and I think we've come down to like everyone's been saying, some things are true and tested, right? Like, ain't nobody changing the 750 milliliter uh folks, right? Like, so there's ways to innovate about that. Ain't no one's letting go of the little canister, right? Yet somebody, as Whitney was saying, was able to turn it into a tripod, right? Like,
Yeah.
there are all those things that we already use and stuff, and I think innovation is really happening. So like looking at those things and how we can like use, right? And it's like an inadvertent like collaboration that's sort of happening between all these companies. And I think, but true and tested designs have like, they'll live the test of time, so it's kind of safe to design for them, you know what I mean?
It is always fascinating. I know I kind of led this with saying this, but every time at Garage Grown we take on a couple of new brands, I always kind of feel like there's more new brands. Like there's new products coming out, and then yeah, someone puts a toothbrush on the end of a spoon, and you're like, all right, there's
Right.
still new stuff. And
Yeah.
yeah, no, I feel like I get asked that question a lot too, which is like, where is the ultralight industry going? And it feels like
Yeah.
I can't always tell, but I know it's going somewhere. It is not a stagnant thing. It is
No.
constantly evolving because new ideas keep coming off of trail, and that's yeah, it won't stop.
One thing I'd say too is like even in a crowded space, like maybe the ultralight space feels very crowded right now. Like I think sometimes as like brands are like myself included, another new backpack brand, another new backpack brand, it's gonna be the new hot thing for 6 months. But then I step back and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, Osprey makes over 6 million backpacks a year.
Yeah.
I'm like, they own 80% of the backpack market in the world. You go to any shop in the world and count the number of backpacks in the wall and do the math. It's 80% of that wall is going to be Osprey. Even at REI that makes their own backpacks, they give 80% of their pack wall to Osprey. So I'm no like giant Ronald Reagan fan, but I mean, I do believe that, a rising tide raises all ships. So it's like as big box brands get more into ultralight, and as more small brands and creators get in there, it's like it's only going to benefit all of us that this
Totally.
becomes kind of the philosophy everyone winds up using. And if there's more players out there, it gives a lot more credence that this is actually a legit industry. And
Mhm.
a backpack's a very personal thing. It's like a backpack I like might not be a backpack Chris likes or Sarah likes, and it's like you need to have a lot of different backpacks also so people can get what they want. I mean, my father always said they make chocolate and vanilla ice cream for a reason, and he's right. It's like people can buy what they want.
Mhm.
How many
That's great.
cola brands can you buy? You know what I mean? There's a bunch.
Yeah,
People can,
exactly.
yeah. No, it's
Well,
good.
well, thanks everyone. I think we should probably turn it over for if there's any questions there in the comment section. But yeah, I think that spirit of collaboration I think is alive and well, especially within the cottage industry. And I think that's one of the most fun things about being in the cottage industry in general is there's like actually a lot of camaraderie amongst brands because we
Yeah.
like know each other and we go to the same events. And yes, a lot of us are kind of like competitors in some ways, but like largely we're just kind of like dirtbags that like the backpack and stumbled their way into business. And that's pretty cool. There's an authenticity to that that's really nice. So I'll stop talking and Liz,
I
do you
mean, Lloyd,
wanna...
I don't know how you feel, but I'm sure everybody here feels the same way. It's like I look forward to going to trail days or like any of those hiker events because it's like I get to see all my friends that work in this industry year after year. And it's like, I mean, it's nice. We sit down, we break bread together. You can talk about what's going on in the market, and we share best practices. It's just, you're right. The camaraderie in this ultralight world is such a unique and special thing for an industry. It's
Yeah,
like I
Totally.
like Light AF. I mean, I'm a competitor with him, but like him and we chat all the time. And
Chris is great.
at trail days, you're at a trail event, you forgot your hammer, somebody, hey, you got a hammer? I don't have one, it's like, here's a hammer, it's like whatever you need, it's great. It's just like it's such a great group of people, and it's a lot of fun to work in this industry with all of them and get to interact with everybody and see what they're up to. It's really a cool experience and a special place.
Support.
I would echo that totally. Like I've been blown away by the support I've gotten starting this business. Like email some company that I like their products and ask about factories, and they write me this long message back. Like, I might be your competitor. And, it's just been so welcoming and amazing.
No, it'd be sick. I mean, it's, there's, here at Almost Right, we always trying to like collaborate with like different brands, just trying to bring gear for the community and stuff. You know, we're also talking about 80% on the wall being Osprey, but I think, we could always just team up and start biting some ankles, just like gnaw off some ankles, just like get a bigger piece of that pie wall, that wall pie or whatever. It's just saying, together we can do it. We can throw a larger stone.
Exactly.
I can lie.
Thanks so much, everyone. And, I think that sort of camaraderie, I get to be a fly on the wall and see that events and be part of that at events. And that was one of the ideas behind holding this panel, was the idea that I want to give other people, our readers specifically, sort of an insider's view of what behind the scenes, how ultralight brands interact with each other, because it's really like a big family. We have some great questions in the Q&A. The first one from Mr. President: the imitation, poor or not, by big box brands of your hiker-inspired and refined gear is concerning. How do you protect your innovation? And how can we, as members of the backpacking community, help? I think that's a great question, and I'm sure you all have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I can say something. I was just talking to a copyright lawyer today, and I think the thing with, like, at least my pack is I've taken pieces and ideas from so many other packs. Like, this is not something I can patent because it's kind of, it's what's the word? It's like in the Creative Commons, there's a lot of knowledge shared out there. But I think what's, it is concerning that, REI might rip off my bags, but I think it's a difference for the customer of, do you want to go to Starbucks or do you want to go to the local coffee shop around the corner? And
Yep, exactly.
Liv was saying, it's about community, it's about brand identity. So even if somebody makes a really similar product, if somebody likes the vibe of our brand and what we're doing as like the mission of the company, that's why they'll come to us, even if they get a similar product somewhere else. That said, I trademark whatever I can, but it's really like,
I mean, having a patent as a small brand, it's kind of worthless, frankly, unless you have some big deep pockets to fund a lawsuit. You're just never going to be able to take someone on. Every time we've gotten into something, our IP attorneys just said to us, do you want to go spend 25 to 50 grand fighting it? We can. Or you could take 25 to 50 grand and you could do a bunch of R&D and develop a new product and innovate that way. So I think for all of us here, we just got to stay ahead of the curve and just be constantly thinking and innovating. And that's how we stay relevant, is we don't get stagnant with what we are producing. We're always trying to push the envelope, and that's how we succeed and outmaneuver that situation.
Yep, I agree completely with everything that's been said so far around this. I think like the thing that we've been focusing a lot on in this last year or so at Enlightened Equipment is, what are the things that we can do better? Anybody can grab 2 pieces of nylon, put down inside of it some zippers, some snaps, some cordage, and make a quilt. It is not hard. Any of these major players could grab any number of products and reverse engineer them and no time flat, right? But
Yep.
what are the things that we can do better? Like, being part of the community, I think, is a huge part of it. And like, trying to expand the collective knowledge around the community, around the sport, just being supportive. We get so many requests for, people, companies, brands, things that need help. We're always there to provide gear and be part of that solution. I think those are the things that kind of tie us, to that community for a long time to come, and an area that some of the bigger players might not be able to quite compete.
And then to anybody on, watching this that uses Instagram, whenever you see them post something that looks like your favorite cottage brand, be like, Inline Equipment did it first. 6 Months did it first.
I like it.
allmansright, Symbiosis did it first. I don't know if I can curse. Ish talked them. I don't know.
I like Liv's
How
style
about-
there. Along the same
Yeah.
lines, someone asked, what's the name of the punk rock Italian company that you mentioned? Because I feel like
Ray-
you guys have a punk rock way of trying to support small brands going.
Yeah, man. They're rayon, like the fiber, and then vert, as in vertical, rayon vert. Yeah, they're sick.
It's cool.
Yeah, we kind of need to be like a little like punk rock and like rebellious about this all. Like really, it's we're ultimately small guys trying to make it into a big space. It's gonna take some like stirring shit up and like some like kicking dust and like fighting dirty in cases. Like, it's just what it is, like you're not like, what are we supposed to do? Like just pretend like we're gonna be a big brand and like and fight the North Face and at their own like game. No way. No way. We either work with them and get the due recognition, or we're going to do what we can to like, like stay up, fight back, keep doing it for our community and like and freaking families, You kind of have to take that on, and plus our environment needs it, right? Like it needs us to be a little bit more angry, needs to be us to be a little bit more cautious, and like it just, it needs us as like people who like create outdoor gear.
Mm-hmm.
Along the same lines, what business innovations and marketing are all of your brands using? Someone asks.
Boy, I guess I would argue that marketing might be one of the biggest innovations in ultralight in the last 5 years or so. I think that, with our team, relatively small team of marketing, we really just are trying to amplify our message. We're not out there trying to proclaim that we're the best in the industry, or really what we're trying to do is let them know that we have an alternative product to some of the mainstream offerings that are out there, and get that out to as many people that maybe have not heard of us. Marketing, I think for us, obviously, is like the traditional channels, right? We're doing Google ads, we're doing stuff on Meta, but also, we do what we can with trail events, things like that. Trying to make sure, especially for like, I'm not sure about all of you guys, but like as an e-commerce brand, especially one that offers apparel and very sized things, we get a lot of hesitation around, will this fit me? How do I have that good buyer confidence when they get on the website? And so we try to make our products available in as many types of shows as we can. We've really tried to expand into retail because we feel that also gives people an opportunity to really try things on and kind of feel the difference of the products. So that's kind of what we do. I mean, I think there's probably a lot of ways to tackle it, but I think innovative marketing is really found its way into the ultralight space, from players big and small.
I can say what I'm doing. I can't tell you if it's working yet or not. I'm using my business Instagram sort of like I'm the influencer for this business where, I take the backpack out, and so it's very personal and just building a really personal relationship with the audience. Where I started out like posting pretty pictures of nature and, having, some comments on there, and I decided to switch over and just be me on there. Mostly it's, resources. That's the quickest and easiest way for me to get the message out. And I think it's a good way to really start building an audience that's very real and caring.
I'd say for us, like innovations in marketing has really been like, I mean, it's kind of a series of systems. It's an ecosystem really. And, I'm fortunate I work for a company that's been around for 20 years. So, and we do have some budgeting that can be used. But I would say the biggest innovation, like Chris was saying, is like digital marketing has changed the way the world markets. I can tell you that because I've never paid for a print ad. And when I get a deck that says, hey, buy a print ad for $25,000, I'm like, and what do I know what my ROI is? Because if I spend $25,000 in digital marketing, I can draw a direct line to what my ROI was. So I think once you get in the space of marketing, you realize just how powerful being able to utilize digital marketing is. And I think that combination, having a very authentic story, like Sarah said, I mean, we kind of you look at our social media sometimes like, man, are we kind of goofy? But it's like, we're very authentic. It's like, me and Ben run most of our social media, and Ben really has taken it over for me at our shop. Our customer service guy, he's a thru hiker and he's into bike packing and pack rafting. And, we just try to keep it real. Our ambassadors provide a lot of the imagery and their stories, what we share. And I think that's what's important is keep things really authentic in the world of marketing.
Yeah, I think people are craving that, especially now. And I think that is one of those big differentiators between big box folks and the cottage industry is the ability to be able to speak directly and authentically to your audience. And I think, people more so the last couple of years, I think, especially during COVID and during the times about unrest in Minneapolis, I think just like really wanted brands to be able to to make opinions on things, to be able to be more personal and available. And I think that's one of the most fun things about supporting small brands is that, you're like anyone on this on the Zoom call, like you're looking at them like this is us. This is what we look like. This is what we're doing on a Thursday evening. Like this is my basement. These are people's living rooms. Like
for some time when we started, when we were still out of our apartment, our address was like public knowledge. And folks would just come to our crib and sit down in our living room and grab and like buy, like when we did like the local pickup option for gear, they would just come in and have a seat with us in our living room. And it's kind of crazy now that I think about it. Kind of dangerous, probably. I've had to walk lightly in this industry.
Well, we're just a little bit over time, so I want to give all of our panelists a last question to kind of sum up their thoughts. And someone asked, what's your number one advice for someone looking to go ultralight? So you can take a more business spin to that. You can take a very personal spin to that. I'll let you decide, but I think that I can't think of a better way to end the night.
I think that everybody's, nobody should just Google how to go ultralight and buy the list of things, right? Like, don't do that. I think like for me, I think that the reward of going ultralight is kind of the journey, kind of getting like understanding what I actually needed to feel comfortable in the backcountry. It was like at first I had a lot of stuff because I didn't have a lot of knowledge, but as my knowledge got bigger and I was able to really, get back, think about what I didn't use on that, push that stuff off to the side. What did I use? How did it do? Really, like for me, I'm kind of a hyper analytics dude, I'm getting on spreadsheets and stuff, but like, I think really it's a matter of getting out there, taking some trips, have fun with whatever gear you got, make the best of it. Even if you're miserable, come back, analyze, refine, tweak. Next trip will be better. And you eventually you just get there, and that's half the fun.
I would say, so the question is how's the best way to go ultralight? Is that what we're answering here?
Number one advice for someone looking to go ultralight. Support your local ultralight brand, right?
Yeah, support your ultralight brand. No, I would just say like, yeah, I mean, very much echo what Chris said, going out and seeing what works and what doesn't work. But I would also say that, don't just focus on the gear as that's what's defining your experience. Like gear is a tool in the toolbox to have the experience you want to have. So if you can't afford new gear, use the gear you have. I think you'll notice if you go super, super ultralight as you go on that journey, the pendulum swings back the other way as you start getting older. I'm in my like later 40s now, and it's like I carry more stuff than I carried 10 years ago because I like to be comfortable at night when I sleep and wake up and my shoulder not be hurting or my neck have a crank. But there's a lot of great resources out there online. I always recommend Mike Cleveland's books. I think that's a great place to start for going ultralight. I think it's a fun, informative, simple format. And not to brown nose snorkel, but Liz Thomas's book, Long Trails, I think is an amazing resource for learning from a lot of experienced long distance hikers how to kind of make that transition to ultralight and long distance hiking at the same time.
Yeah, I think both of those are great advice. And to be really simple, just take less stuff.
But also buy from all these great ultralight companies. we got the goods. Yeah. Yo, start with the little things. Like you'd be surprised how many pounds like chapstick, toothpaste, that and the next could add up to. Like you could seriously drop a couple of pounds on that. And then learn the ultralight philosophy, right? Where like you use knowledge to substitute gear, I guess. It's a good way. You know, like I know it'll probably help you connect with like the space you're in a little bit more to have knowledge to like supplement like surviving the night there, you know what I mean? I think it's the funnest part for me. Like I learned how to tie knots because I was trying to go ultralight. I learned how to read where the wind was gonna come down the mountain because I was trying to learn how to pitch a tarp to go ultralight. Yeah, like all that sort of stuff. It's all a trip. Yo, I have two kids at home. I have a kid that is probably worth like $100, and it has the Musa tin cup, and it has the cat can stove, it has a tarp that I made, and it literally has the cheapest way you can backpack. And then I have like this sixth setup where like it's my gear and gear from our friends and like stuff that I treated myself to over the years. But just get out there, like, and try some stuff out, like Chris and everyone's been saying.
Yeah, and just a couple more resources if you don't want to break the bank. The UL, there's the Reddit thread, UL Gear Trade, I think it's called. That's a great place to get used gear. And then eBay. I got my enlightened equipment at Quilt on eBay, so that also works too. So buying used gear is a great way.
Sure. Learn to sew, start a cottage company.
Yeah, learn to sew.
That's not the cheap approach.
It might be, man. I mean, definitely not start a company, but for sure learning to sew. Because then you can just make your own stuff.
Yeah.
Sell it to Lloyd.
Yeah.
You go.
And then supplement to buy, I don't know, more stuff. I don't know. Start a gear flipping business, all I'm saying.
But before we go off the rails, I just want to thank everyone so much for being part of this panel. This was a ton of fun. It was great to hear everyone's perspectives and really enlightening, so to speak, to to hear how different innovation sounds like to all of your brands. It really gives me a lot of hope for the future of ultralight. I want to thank Lloyd again from Garage Grown Gear. This was really great. And we'll be in touch. We'll send out an email with a recording, and you can watch this video online for people you know who might be interested. And yeah, we might be putting together another one of these events. So keep your eyes peeled, check your emails, and really looking forward to hearing more from other ultralight brands. Thanks so much, everyone.
See you later.